Welcome back to Theory Pre-Med, everybody. Theory Pre-Med is a podcast following the journey of three pre-med students, Mo, Todd, and Nathan. We talk about our path and experiences as we bring in guests who will connect pre-meds worldwide. If you're thinking about med school or healthcare, our podcast will give you the ultimate student perspective. Also, thank you to Chapman Radio for giving us the space to record today. And I tried to cut Mo off before he said the ultimate student perspective line.
I know. I was like, is this guy going to do it again?
I was a little bit scared.
No. It's a new year.
New year.
New year, new us, guys.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
me.
This episode's probably not coming out on New Year's, close
Because
to
New Year's already passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I
but
mean, we do have the power of making it come out.
we can do that.
can.
We can.
So it's
But will we?
possible.
No, because I already
Yeah,
edited
we
the
already
other-
have the schedule.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
already edited out the video for this week. So, yeah.
Okay, but okay, sorry. Well, what is our topic for today? What are we doing?
Well,
Let's-
first we'll start with our hypothetical here.
Our
which
little
is,
segment.
Yeah, you can pick 3 companions during the zombie apocalypse. What would they be their professions?
You go
This is
first.
nice.
You came up with the question.
I
Well, Nathan
have
already
an
had an
answer.
idea.
Oh.
I have an answer. I would take a doctor, obviously.
A doctor.
Do I have to pick a specific doctor, kind of doctor? Okay. I feel like you have to have a doctor in order to, heal wounds that you get from, if you get bit by a zombie, you're pretty much done. But,
Ooh.
Other stuff. What's that?
I think what we should do is like we'll go around, we'll say one, and then we'll like keep rotating like that.
No,
and
but
then
I have
once
3, bro.
but once someone says one, like you can't reuse that person.
Okay.
So like your teams are like
Oh.
exclusive.
Okay.
So now Nathan has a doctor.
But like, okay.
So you have a
wanna-
doctor.
If you want to
So
change,
I already win.
If you wanna
I got the
change.
best.
No. not
if you want to
necessarily.
change,
I have somebody in mind, but I feel like you two are gonna say something. Okay,
Okay.
all right, just yeah, we'll do
Okay.
that idea.
So I'm next.
Mo, your turn.
So I can't say surgeon.
a
surgeon?
You can, I guess.
You can say
yeah.
it, but I feel like it's
It's similar, but I guess it's like different enough.
yeah.
Surgeon.
What would a
Why?
surgeon provide that a doctor wouldn't?
Well, let's
Surgery.
say like
Yeah,
let's
but
say,
you have no resources. It's a zombie
so
apocalypse.
Surgery.
Nathan has like the clinician.
Okay. The surgeon has both. Clinical and surgery.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay. So is that why? Is that like your why?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I think in a zombie apocalypse, you're definitely gonna be running around, like, trying to figure things out. Things are gonna get thrown at you, shots are gonna be fired, things are gonna be thrown, and eventually you're gonna get a bad cut. You might break a bone or something, right?
Yeah.
That surgeon will have the clinical side of his training, or her training, and they're also going to be able to perform surgery. Let's say I get bit in the leg, amputation, boom.
Sure.
Right?
You have no resources.
He could chop it off. He knows how to control the bleeding. And look, we could invade a hospital, take over it. We got the resources now.
Okay,
Simple as that.
that's pretty fair.
Maybe.
Bada
I
bing,
think
bada
a
boom.
clinician would have some idea how to do all of those things.
So okay.
Wait, actually, that's a really good question. If you're going into like internal medicine or something like that, along those lines,
You can you can do stitches and stuff. You can,
do you get that training? Do
Yeah.
you guys know? Like
Yeah.
surgical training? Do you get that?
not
well,
surgery.
not as
A
in
cli-
depth,
a
but they
clinician
probably
can-
know how to do
can
like,
stitch
stitches.
cups.
Well, that's
cuts up.
it. But like,
I mean, but really, it all just depends on how much you practice it, right? I mean, because one person can learn how to suture, but if you don't do it for like 30 years, you're obviously not going to be better than the guy who does it every day.
but I'm talking more like complex things. Let's say like
No, no,
Like-
then no, because you would learn that
in like your
in your
surgical,
residency,
yeah.
or in your rotations.
Uh-huh.
But
All right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Todd's turn.
So I think you guys both brought up good answers, but I think mine's a little bit better.
Okay.
I would say like a paramedic, and the reason why. And I was worried.
I
about you
was-
guys would
I
say
was
that.
about
Nobody
to
took
say
my
paramedic.
second one.
But
Okay.
but then I was like, surgeon kind of outweighs. I don't know.
The reason why is because like you don't have you might not have resources all the time. And the people who, are out there in the field and who, I feel like have a mentality of like, I got to work with what I got. I feel like they are the most experienced.
They have the ability to like act.
Because I don't know.
kinda on impulse.
I feel like where it's like, well, maybe, but I feel like it's like, yeah, when you are like a doctor, you need the resources. You need to like be able to like keep things like sterile. You need to like do all this stuff. But then if you're like a field medic, you're just like, all right, let's just do this nitty gritty and like you just gotta do what you gotta do. That's what I feel like.
Yeah,
but
I
maybe
get what
that's
you're
wrong.
saying, but at the same time, I feel like if you're a doctor, you also have the knowledge, right? Especially in Orange County, a lot of the time, if you're a paramedic or an EMT, it's basically like maintain their their stability or stabilize them a little bit just to get into the hospital. That's the goal usually. I think it really depends where you're trying to get the paramedic from. If you get like a paramedic from a very like far away hospital location type thing where paramedics are actually doing things all the time.
Yeah, I want
Then,
that guy.
yeah. So then, yeah. But at the same time,
But-
they're still not gonna have like
Yeah.
a lot of the treatment
Yeah.
funds. I don't know, but it's a
Alright.
pretty good answer.
Okay,
I want
what's
a
your next one?
survivalist Bear Grylls adventure guy.
Okay.
Bear Grylls. I'm literally taking Bear Grylls
So
because he
you're gonna
knows
have
how
to
to
drink
do
your own pee?
everything. Okay, I'm not saying that I have to drink my own pee, but he would he
It's
would be able
sterile.
to find resources that we can't see, and you know, like set up camps and stuff, and wildlife, like actually obtaining food and stuff like that. Like a survivalist would be perfect, like in Bear
Okay.
Grylls. And also he might know his way around like actually like killing zombies as well.
Okay, I want to say I want someone from like SEAL Team 6, but from what I've heard is SEAL Team 6 is more of like just out there. There's a more elite team. So whatever the most elite military team is, I want a member of theirs.
Okay.
They're top
Fair enough.
dog because they're gonna have the survival skills. They're gonna be able to, you know, do the signs and stuff like silent signs, and we're moving, right? We're moving.
Right.
All right. So this kind of sucks because I'm getting like I'm getting
But
last pick
this is-
here. you
That's
know?
true.
I was gonna say that
In our
instead of like
draft.
going in the circle, once it ends at you, then you go again. And then
All right. So I get 2 picks.
Yeah.
I get. All right. Well,
Sure.
my first one is gonna be a professional chef.
Oh,
Obviously.
Bro, I was gonna say Chef Ramsay.
Because
Gordon
like his videos where he goes out to like the random oceans and like dives and like gets like food and then
Yeah.
cooks it. But yeah, someone who can like cook using like raw materials, just things that you'd find around just anywhere, I feel like is essential. Because I mean, if we're in a zombie apocalypse, might as well be eating good, you know. So,
Awesome.
so there's that. For my second one, I think I do need like a combat type of person.
yeah, that's where I was gonna go
Um,
with it next.
And to that, I don't know, maybe like a weapons specialist. Or actually no. I will do like a handyman slash like a weapons
tinker?
forger. Yeah, like someone who can like not someone who is like okay, like maybe like the best combat person, but like the person who can make a weapon out of like anything. Right? So if you have like a tree stump, you can make like a spear or something.
Yeah.
So that way, not only can just that person fight, but all of us are like armed and can like protect ourselves too.
Interesting.
That's what I'll say.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna go.
Wait, it's my turn now.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Sorry,
backwards.
sorry. Go for it.
I would go for a pilot because
I was gonna say pilot, but I thought something else. Okay.
I would go for a pilot just because let's say we find out that this one place is safe, you know, and it's across the world. You know, I don't know how to fly a plane. I'm sure my SEAL Team 7 guy doesn't know how to fly a plane either. You know, so
Maybe.
we're gonna rely on that pilot. We're gonna keep him safe or her safe, and we're going to mob. We're flying. We're skydiving. We're doing all that.
Okay.
I like it, but you don't have anybody to take out the zombies. Like,
His SEAL
SEAL
Team
Team
6.
7,
oh,
bro.
Sim Teams. Okay, all right, that's pretty.
But how are you
fair.
gonna food?
Huh?
How are you gonna food?
The SEAL Team 7, they're trained for that.
Okay.
They're trained to survive for like months in the
But,
wild.
okay.
Okay.
I want. I'm taking inspiration from Walking Dead. Like, they don't usually have people like with guns, or they do, but if you shoot a zombie
You
with
got
a
a silencer.
gun, right? If you shoot a zombie with a gun, even with a silencer, like making loud noises, will usually attract more zombies.
That's fine.
So like,
Higher up on the leaderboards.
I'm thinking ninja.
Ninja.
Yeah, like just a straight up ninja, sword wielding and everything, and somebody who can fight like really really well and sneakily, and get resources from like abandoned buildings and like sneak around and stuff like that.
That's-
Just
Okay.
a
that's a good
straight
one.
up ninja.
Yeah.
Good one.
All right.
All right. So who do you guys think whose team is going to win?
I really have faith in my team. I think I put a,
Really?
a clinician.
Well, it depends on
you
what's
only
winning.
need general stuff for it. You don't
Surviving.
need
Just surviving.
specialist. Yeah, surviving. I think like clinician, Ninja, and Bear Grylls, I think is like the perfect team.
What
don't know.
doesn't Bear Grylls like? Wasn't he found some
doesn't-
fake stuff?
Wait, what?
I think, or what was it?
Or just we could just like a Bear Grylls type person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
I don't know. Nathan's just pretty good.
Yeah.
The ninja.
I mean, mine's pretty focused. I feel like mine's pretty good at like focusing on surviving too. I think they're all fine
Yeah.
because we all have like a medic or like a doctor of some sort. We all have like a fighter ish, and then we all have like, well, I guess you have your pilot.
Transport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Able to move
It's
because-
good, but you're not guaranteed like to be in a situation where you'll need a pilot.
We got SEAL Team 7. They're gonna get us places.
Okay. It's possible.
We got ground mobility and then flight mobility.
Yeah.
Right.
Top of the world, baby.
What about, dude?
Well,
I
I-
think better than a pilot is like a salesman, like somebody who can drive a boat is like a lot more resourceful than a pilot.
But
Because
anyone could drive a boat.
yeah, okay, that's true.
Well-
But across the ocean, not everybody can drive a boat across the
Right,
ocean.
just
Maybe
floor it,
SEAL team can.
floor
I
it.
don't know.
We'll
SEAL
leave,
Team
we'll leave it
6
to
can.
viewers. Viewers, if we want to hear what you guys want to do, who are your people,
And who would win out of
yeah.
us three? You know,
Who
if you
would-
have any, yeah, just comment in
Yeah,
our
yeah.
post
comment when
or
the post
anywhere.
comes out.
Yeah, just tell us who's gonna win.
Sounds good.
All right. So today's episode was going to be a pre-med do's and don'ts. For those who are new to the series, pre-med do's and don'ts is a series where we talk about things that you should do for certain pre-med things and things that you also shouldn't do in the form of do's and don'ts.
All right. So, how do you guys like? Let's take us through. How have we planned throughout our time? Like,
Yeah.
what is our planning kind of routine? Let's just talk about it.
I think my first introduction to planning at all was getting an agenda. That was
Like
the-
buying a physical
yeah,
one?
like a physical agenda. That was the first step in college for me. I've never owned an agenda before. Like in high school, when they give you those agendas with the little ruler thingies in the middle, you know what I'm talking about, where it says like today on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So literally never used that ever.
Really? I used one in high school.
Really?
Like a
yeah.
And then I
planner.
stopped using it in
Yeah,
college.
because you use it like I used it for 1 week, and after that it was
Yeah.
just basically like taking pictures of the board, and that was it.
You're 100.
Yeah.
Same thing for me.
So-
exactly.
Like at first you're like, oh, I'm gonna stay on top of it. It looks so nice, and then you don't care anymore. But I think in high school, in college, you really need to, because now it's not only classwork, but you also have extracurriculars that you also need to worry about, and meetings on top of it. So all of that adds up, and you need to make sure that you're not missing any of those, right? The last thing you want to do is schedule a meeting, especially with a professor, like someone who is trying to help you out and waste their time by just not showing up. So that's where I think the agenda really comes into play, because if you're mainly focused on just homework and stuff, we have Canvas, you have Blackboard, things like that.
Yeah.
They already have a built-in calendar that shows all that. So that's not really the main focus of an agenda for me. It was more of just the extra stuff on top of that. So that was the first step, I think, for me. And it was difficult at first. I think I tried using like a lot of different colors, and that was really overwhelming. But then I just ended up doing schoolwork black, then like meetings red, and then extracurriculars green or something, or blue. And I think just keeping it simple like that is really nice. It keeps it simple. You know the priorities. And on the sides, you could definitely do like to-dos for the week. Like this week, I want to make sure I get ahead on research, or I want to get ahead on this thing, you know? So it's a really nice way to just spread things out and really plan your week, I think.
Yeah, planning is definitely an essential part of being pre-med for the reasons that Mo explained. You just have so many different things that are not only just school related, but also related to other like activities or institutions or anything like that. For me, I definitely think that, you know, having a sort of like an agenda or like a calendar, whichever one, is like definitely a must. For me, I use the calendar. I use a calendar app on my phone. I don't have a physical one, but I'd use it for anything that's kind of like really important, or anything that's going to be like, you know, like a month later or like a few weeks later. So that way it, you know, reminds me, and it is just, I can reference it whenever I want.
Yeah.
I will say one thing I did change with my planning was between my freshman and sophomore year is I did transition from a hard copy to a virtual one. So
Yeah,
a lot of
I
the
was gonna
meetings and
ask.
things like that, I now have on my Apple Calendar. So then I'm just able to look at it right away, add things easily, make it repetitive. Like every other week I have this commitment, every week I have this commitment, things like that. So it makes it really easy. But for homework and things like that, I like to keep those on like my iPad calendar. So I have Notability. Not sponsored, sponsor us. please. We need money because we are broke students.
Shout out Notability. I love Notability.
No, but Notability, you could just download a template, like a calendar template, and I'll just have that on there as like my main thing when I first open it up, and I just write things on there. And the cool thing about it too is Notability, you could have it on your phone, you could have it on your tablet, you could have it on your computer. So whatever you like, let's say you don't have your backpack on you, you don't have your hard copy agenda, you're always gonna have your phone or your computer or something like that. So you're always able to look at it for your homework. So that I think going virtual if possible, highly recommend it. I've tried both, and I've definitely liked the virtual version a lot more.
Yeah, one thing I like is the fact that if I put something on my calendar on my phone, then I can have it like remind me. Like, remind me in 2 days before this happens.
Yeah, that's perfect for short. Like short-term planning, you have to have a calendar. I think we've all kind of realized that as we've been pre-med. But what about long-term planning? How do you guys work? Like, what do you do to long-term plan? Do you write stuff down? Do you set like actual goals for yourself?
I won't go too in depth in this because we did talk a little bit about it in a previous episode. But I think the biggest thing is looking at your syllabus, because when it comes to schoolwork, let's say you have big exams coming up, you have big due dates, like a big project or something like that. Let's say you have like a big award ceremony that you need to show up to, just things like that that are very grand. I think just looking at like your syllabus or your college schedule is very helpful, because then you just look at the dates. It literally tells you what dates they are. You go on your calendar and just add them. And if you're really lazy and you don't want to do it manually, you could literally tell Siri, hey Siri, add this on this day at this time. Or you could even say all day long and it will just add it for you. So those are all the options I think have been very helpful, especially with the syllabus that's usually slept on, but it's definitely helpful. So check out your syllabus.
Yeah, and that way if you have like a time where someone asks you, oh, are you free to meet at this time? You can just say, okay, let me look at my calendar, and you can literally look at that day and see if you are doing anything at that day or that time, and just say like yes or no right there, instead of having to like think about, oh, like I don't know, like if I'm doing this or that, or, you know, it's just, it keeps you more organized.
Totally.
But yeah, for long-term planning, I definitely, that's what the calendar is for me. Whenever I have like something out in the future, like, you know, a couple weeks, like to however long, I'll use the calendar. Everything else that's more short-term, then I'll use like my reminders app, which is basically just kind of like my lists of like things to do, just things like a to-do list for me.
Yeah.
And I think you, sorry to interrupt. I think you do that a lot with your homework, right? So I've seen Todd, he has like a reminders list, and it's just straight up all the homeworks and assignments he has. So
it's like, I split it up by every single class. So I write like, oh, like bio, chem, and then I just have like, you know, bio, I have do this homework, watch this lecture or something like that. And then same thing for chem, and then same thing for everything else.
Yeah, and you can use, like you mentioned, you can use the calendar for both long-term and short-term as well. I use the Outlook calendar, and you're able to like add like an event that occurs multiple times, like over a semester and stuff, or you can add individual events. So you can do it for both. I check my calendar like every week for short-term stuff, if I have like a particular meeting or whatever that week. And then long-term, I can write down the test day or something like that, you know.
One thing I do like to do is I check my calendar the night, like right before I sleep. So that I see what I have tomorrow morning, if it's like something important, or because let's say you have an interview that you like for some reason you thought was the next day, but it was really tomorrow. Then you're like, then you could just like dress up for it in the morning instead of having to go back home and remembering and all those things, right? That's just an example. But I think just checking it the night before is very helpful. And then when you wake up, just a quick look at it, I think is nice. To be like, hey, this is how my day is going to look like. If I need to add anything, this is a time I could add it in. Just things like that, I think it's super beneficial. It's a good visual representation of what your day is going to look like.
Yeah. Aside from doing all of this, like, you know, physical planning where like you writing stuff down in a calendar, you're writing stuff down in your notes app or something, you know, how do you sort of, or one thing I do is I plan out my weeks kind of mentally, where like if I have this homework or this project or whatever, like this test, I think, okay, you know, I kind of just have like a rough little draft, I guess, in my head where I'm thinking, okay, on this day I'm going to study, you know, between these classes or after this class, or I'm going to do this homework on this day or whatever. And I go that for like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and so on. And I kind of just like have a mental sort of thing running in my head. Do you guys do that too?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Totally. Yeah.
And I think you kind of need to do that before you start writing things down too, because you get a good idea of like, it's like a little rough draft. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I think it's just sometimes keeping a mental plan and keeping yourself organized in terms of what you're going to do day by day is something that's really helpful.
It keeps you accountable for sure.
Yeah, and like reminders and calendar can only go so far. Like there's little things that you need to do all the time, like little homework assignments and stuff that we don't write down or
Like
whatever.
for sociology, you had
Yeah.
those the 3 times a week. Yeah, what was it?
weekly essays, I guess you could say. And like you have to just basically say, okay, so for example, the sociology thing, like when am I going to write this, 2-page essay? Okay, I can do it like during when I'm like tutoring at that time. Like that's what I do. And then plan out, okay, so I don't have that time anymore to do like this other thing. When am I going to do that? And it's like stuff like that. You just map it out a little bit. And it's the type of thing that you can't write in the calendar because it changes every week. So it's really good for short-term plans, just keeping a mental map of what you're doing that week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we could all agree that an agenda is kind of important for college. It's almost necessary, especially if like you're on the pre-med, pre-nursing, whatever you're doing, right? You have so much going on, and it's so important to just get that schedule down, because the last thing you want to do is like miss a meeting or something like that, or miss a deadline. That's gonna look bad long term.
Yeah.
Let's say they call that professor and they're like, oh, I need a reference. Like that professor could bring up like, hey, they're late to meetings, they forgot about meetings, things like that. Usually they won't, but it's still a possibility. So I think it's important to keep that in mind and just be respectful of everyone's time. I think that's the biggest thing. But I think another thing that's really been beneficial for all of us, especially when it comes to classes and things like that, is a 4-year plan. So at Chapman, we have a class called Bio 101 for bio majors. And basically what we do is we go in and then we create a 4-year plan. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It's a 4-year plan of our classes, what we're going to take every single semester, things like that. And one thing I will say, although that the 4-year plan seems pretty concrete when you make it, we've all altered ours like a couple times. But for the most part, it's very nice being able to look at it and be like, hey, this is a rough idea of how my 4 years in college are going to look like.
Yep.
It's very helpful because then you're able to add, for example, like when am I going to start studying for the MCAT? I've already taken the prerequisites by junior fall, for example, or junior spring. That means I could start studying for the MCAT after my junior year, right? Those are all things you could start thinking about starting your freshman year just to get on top of it.
You know, when I first made the 4-year plan, I wasn't pre-med at the time. And so I was really just interested in doing like the general route that most students do. Like, okay, Bio 101, Bio 204 first year, then OChem second year, then Physics junior year, right? All that basic stuff. But once you become pre-med, you really have to pay a lot more attention to when you're doing specific things, because you might need the time for volunteering or research, and you don't want to overload one semester. So it's really important to get that situated early. So it wasn't until like later on when I like became pre-med that I actually mapped out the rest of my my college career. So I'm really glad I did when I did, though, and I still change stuff all the time. But it's really good to have that plan and put more stuff than just classes on your 4-year plan. Put the semesters you're doing research, and put
totally.
the summers that you're doing volunteering and that you're going to take extra classes as well. So stuff like that.
Yeah, I highly recommend the 4-year plan. I think that it's just helped us immensely. And even if you aren't at Chapman, I still recommend doing it at whatever school you're at, and then getting it checked by either an upperclassman who's knowledgeable about that stuff, or if you have some sort of advisor or someone who could help you, make sure you're on track for graduation. Because it can be really stressful to plan out at first, because you're like, oh, I'm a freshman, like I have no idea like what the classes are or what they're like, or if I'm able to handle all these classes, or really anything like that. But the fact of just having the 4-year plan made and stressing out maybe a little bit more about it your freshman year is going to help make things so much easier later on. And by having the 4-year plan, you can understand things like prereqs for classes, and co-requisites for classes, and also, just like how they're going to line up. And yeah.
How can you how can you utilize your advisor when making your 4-year plan?
Well, you can have them check your 4-year plan, right? You can have them check and make sure that you're you have all the credits that you need to be taking. Some schools have requirements in terms of like the lower division credits and the upper division credits that you have to take, making sure that you have enough credits to complete your major, and making sure that the prereqs are lining up with the classes that you're going to be taking later on.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Totally.
and it makes it a lot better than just going every single semester and like, okay, it's registration time, I'm gonna just see what classes I can sign up for, and like checking it every single time, rather than being like, okay, I have a rough idea of what these classes I'm gonna take are, and I'm just gonna see like if they fit into my schedule.
I think
Sorry.
the ultimate thing about the 4-year plan is just making sure you graduate on time as well.
Yeah.
Right. Because the last thing you want to do is get to your senior year and thinking you're going to graduate that fall semester or the spring semester. And the last thing you find out is like, oh, you missed those 2 classes or even like 2 credits or 3 credits.
Yeah.
And you have to stay an extra semester and pay that tuition. Right. It's pretty costly just to take that one class.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great way to just visualize your entire 4 years, figure out the prerequisites like Todd mentioned, figure out the credits if you're meeting those credit requirements, because a lot of the time, a lot of us forget about that. And the lab requirements, things like that.
Right.
So really make sure you have those down there and you're checking your school website to make sure that you're meeting those requirements. But I think ultimately too, what's really helpful is, let's say junior year, you're like, okay, I'm not really enjoying this one specific emphasis in biology that I'm doing. You're able to look at your 4-year plan and really see like, hey, can I transition to another emphasis, for example, or things like that. It helps you move things around because you're able to see the past, the present, and the future. It's like a superpower, right? So that's really what it is. You get to see the future, the past, and the present. So you're able to move things around and really just have fun with it.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is keep in mind you don't have to like stick to it 100%. There's gonna be semesters or even interterms or even quarters where a certain class you expected to be offered isn't offered. So then
Yeah.
you might have to shift things around. And sometimes they will make exceptions for that. For example, my minor, I was planning on taking an interterm class this January for my minor. It wasn't taught. It was supposed to be taught. That's why I had it in my 4-year plan. So I just had to move it to this coming semester. And it's not a big deal. Just talk to your advisors. That's where the advisors come and play. They tell you whether your semester is going to be too much of a load. Let's say you're taking biochem, OChem. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out like all at once. That's a lot of work in one semester, like especially physics. If you throw that in there too, you don't want to overwhelm yourself. So all of that is super, super, super helpful.
Yeah, definitely go around, ask your friends, ask upperclassmen what they think, and also try to meet with the advisor, because a lot of times they're the ones who will be able to tell you, like, is this like an actual plan rather than something like it's just random classes thrown together.
Yeah, and something that Nathan really mentioned that I liked was planning out your summers and just breaks. And I think that also transitions out of the 4-year plan, because the 4-year plan helps you do that. So you want to talk a little bit more about how the 4-year plan has helped you with that?
Yeah, I would say like right off the bat, you can take a look at what you're going to try to accomplish every summer, whether it's going to be research, volunteering, shadowing, taking an extra class, whatever. But try to utilize your summers and make that part of your plan. Additionally, interterm. If your school has interterm, you can plan out classes through interterm or different things like volunteering, shadowing, etc. So, I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, one
All I have to say about it.
one addition that I would put on that is for your I think planning out summers is like one essential thing, and I think that like people should just have one like big thing that they're going to do for each summer. For Mo and I, we came up with this like our freshman year. We were like, okay, let's plan out what we're going to do for like the rest of our summers. And the first summer was to do EMT school, which we did. The second summer was to take physics, which we half did. And then this next summer is to study for the MCAT, right? Which we're still planning on doing. And by having like those bigger blocks of time planned out has just been very helpful and essential in us, like, making sure that we're getting these things done that can really not really only be done, but like for
They
the most
free up your
part.
time by a lot during
done.
the semester.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you're planning for the summer, you're getting so caught up in spring semester that you don't really take into account the fact that you have to like sign up for things, or that you have to do this or that before
Yeah.
you can actually do that. And so I think just having one big overarching goal for a summer is something that's really good. But on top of that, like, if you still want to add in other things like shadowing, research, volunteering, you can definitely go ahead and do that.
It helps you stay productive for sure.
Yeah.
No, I like that addition to it, adding like a bigger goal and then sprinkling in other stuff if you can.
Yeah.
No,
like
that's
baking
good.
a cake.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I will say though, and this was something I encountered for this coming semester was, I know certain majors or certain schools might have a cap on the amount of credits you need. Let's say a certain semester, your classes are pretty light. They're just taking up a lot of credits. For example, this coming semester, I'm taking a lot of credits. I think I'm taking 17. But a lot of the classes I'm taking are for my minor, and they're very like basic intro classes. So I know they're going to be very light for my minor. However, that kind of stopped me from signing up for a class that I wanted to take, which was kind of going out and volunteering at a place close by. And it was just like, I really wanted to do that. But then it was 3 credits and I would go over the 18 maximum requirement. So what you can do if you're in that situation is you could ask the department head or your dean or something like that if you could audit it. So that's where you could just sit in the class. Or you could even talk to the professor to let you tag along and just sit in the class. So you just won't be graded on it or anything. So those are always options that you can do. Obviously, if you can get credit for it, definitely go for the credit. But that's kind of like a worst case scenario if you really need to. That's something you could include on there, highlight it, be like, maybe if I can, maybe if I can't, just putting it out there.
Being aware of the rules is definitely something that's really important.
Every time
Yeah.
you read the rules, it's like you unlock something new.
Honestly, that's so true because it's so hard, like right at the start when you're making your plan, to understand how all the classes, will work. Like you might not expect something to be more difficult than it is, and you might not expect something to be like only available in certain semesters. And it's just like it's so much, and you have to have the ability to be flexible and change stuff like on the fly if you can. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's like a big thing. Like just reading through the rules and like the requirements is so important because I know this semester I figured out that I was taking 3 extra classes, like pretty big classes that I didn't need to take. And I was able to remove those classes and fill them up, like really open up my schedule a lot more and take classes that I wanted to take just by opening it up just the way I did. So that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were able to do that because you had a really good idea of where you wanted to be and like what your schedule would look like. So you can make these substitutions on the fly, and you made that decision in like
First day of school.
Yeah, first day of school.
semester.
Literally the first day you're like, nah, I'm not taking DNA dinos.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, we talked about taking DNA dinos.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's
the
okay.
thing is, I was taking it because of a requirement. I knew I wasn't really going to enjoy it, right?
You would have enjoyed it.
And I mean, with biochem and stuff, it was a pretty big workload. But I think the reason for it was because I would be able to fit in physics next semester, and then
I'll tell you what, you were 100% right to not take it.
and then like with
You were. But you would have enjoyed it, is what I'm saying.
I mean, I just wanted to make sure I had my prerequisites done before the MCAT, and I think that was the ultimate goal, and I was able to accomplish it by removing the class. So
Yeah.
it worked out.
You were right to not take it. It was a little bit of a pain in the neck, I'll be honest, at some parts. But
But I think a lot of people seemed to enjoy
I
it. It was like a
loved
lot
the
of
class.
pretty interesting things came out of it.
definitely top 3 classes at Chapman for me. I loved it.
That's cool.
But all right, let's move on to like some
Yeah.
other stuff.
So
Talk
I
about
think
before we-
I think it's definitely good to stick to your plan, right? I mean, you plan for a reason. You plan so that way you have an idea
Yes.
of where you're going for the future. But at the same time, you're going to be learning a lot of different things, including different opportunities that that just are presented to you that you had no idea even existed before. And in that case, I think it's always good to keep in mind that you don't really have to stick to your plan like 100%. It's okay to move things around, to change things, because you're always learning. You're always learning about different things that you can do or different things that are offered to you. So that's just one piece of advice that I'd definitely give.
Totally.
Yeah, stick to your plan as best as you can. It rhymes.
Yeah. And then also just adding on to, I guess, my own point is just the idea of being meticulous when you're planning. I mean, maybe that's just me being like a little neurotic, but I think it's really good to, you want to make sure your plan actually works, right? Like you want to, just know all the rules, right? Making sure that your plan's following the rules, that you're like,
Yes.
you're doing this, and making sure that the plan will actually it's actually a possible plan. Like it's not just, like oh, like I'm trying to take this class before this prereq because I was just randomly throwing classes together, right? It's like that's kind of what you want to avoid in a sense.
The entire point is to relieve stress.
Yeah. Not make more.
Yeah, that's I've seen it with a lot of people where they'll just do the 4-year plan as kind of like an assignment just to get it done, and then junior year comes and like, oh my god, I forgot to take this one class, or this sent me back a semester. So really make sure you put the time into that. I think it's more than just an assignment. If your school has it, it's there to help you, and it's going to be your guide in a way. It's like Dora, like where is the map? That's your map.
Most of the stuff in Bio 101 or like your 101 class is definitely going to help you along the road. So pay attention. We were on Zoom too. It was COVID. It was really easy to just like take a
When we
nap.
made it, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was really easy to take a nap during that class, and I did sometimes.
Hey, I gotta take that class again. Next semester.
One thing I will say too, the benefit of writing down a lot of your plans and things like that on that. So for example, let's say you're doing research test semester, writing down that research on there. If you're doing EMT, if you're doing like different big like things that are outside of school on that 4-year plan, when you look back at it to, let's say, figure out what you've done, let's say on your CV or things like that, it also helps transition into that. Because you're also visualizing it. Let's say you took a lab freshman year, you're able to recall things that you did not. So like certain skills and things like that, you're able to add those to your CV. So that's also beneficial in a way.
Yeah. So I'll just add in one last do that people should do.
Do.
And is the idea of like planning more like fluid time. Right? Because, you definitely can, plan things of, oh, I'm going to do this, then this, and just like have these like blocks of time just blocked out. But I think that it's really good to have, times in like the year or in your journey, your pre-med journey, where you kind of are fluid, where you have time to like have no classes, maybe like Mo's interterm right now, or like the second half of my summer, where you can do things that you want to do, whether that be school involved, like still doing research, or, still doing volunteering, and maybe focusing more on those things that you like doing. Or like having time to spend with friends, family, or go on trips and stuff like that is good. Like I think that, having periods of time where you can kind of pick what you want to do, and depending on how you're feeling at that moment, I think is something that's definitely beneficial.
I really like that. Yeah, I think that was my summer between freshman and sophomore year was definitely a fluid time. I didn't really do anything.
Yeah. Like I know if like for this interterm and also for next interterm, I was like, I'm not going to plan anything like super specific. I'm just going to kind of see what I want to do, whether that be, taking a class that I find cool, or that I,
volunteering, shadowing,
or,
like
doing research and stuff like that. Or if I want to go on vacation, maybe I want to plan like a week vacation to do, something I've always wanted to do.
Totally.
All the do's, but you can also not do and do nothing and relax.
Yeah.
And that's also a good thing to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think, Todd, you definitely get a lot of people coming into your office hours and just sessions, right, as a peer advisor. And I'm sure you definitely see the things that they shouldn't be doing and advice that you end up giving them because of the mistakes that they might have made on their first attempt on making their 4-year plan. What are some things that you typically see that you would recommend not to do?
Don't do. I think there's nothing specific, I would say.
I think that, well, a lot of times it's just being cognizant of like, things that you can and things that you can't do, right? I mean, especially if someone comes to me and they're saying, oh, like I'm pre-med, what do I have to do, right? It's making sure that you're taking all of the prereqs that you have to take, but then also making sure that you're filling in your graduation requirements, right? It's just being cognizant of like, I want to do these things, and just making sure that you're filling in everything that you have to do for those things, right? Making sure you're not missing things and stuff like that, right? Because you want to be able to follow your plan, right? You don't want to follow your plan and then realize like, oh, I forgot to take this class, right? And then you're kind of like left in a difficult situation.
Totally. And I think one other thing that I've gotten before is like, oh, can you give me your 4-year plan so I could just use that?
Yeah.
I've gotten that from like people in clubs, like especially freshmen. And I'm like, I totally can give it to you and you could reference it, but I highly, like, let's say your friend has a 4-year plan, don't just copy it, because that 4-year plan is made for them. They've made it around their schedules, their priorities, and what they want to do, right? So make sure that, I mean, you could definitely reference, see like where people typically take classes. It might help you figure out prerequisites, ask
Yeah.
questions, right? Like, why do you only have this class in like even years? Why not odd years? Things like that. That could help you like notice things that you might have missed in the requirements. But I think on top of it is like, do what you think you're capable of doing. The last thing you want to do, let's say your friend is doing biochem, physics, and like calculus all at once. That's a lot of work in one semester, right? So they might be very good at math, and that's why they're able to do physics and calculus together. But that might not be the case for you. You might be kind of better in the biology and chemistry side of things. So keep those things in mind and make that schedule around you,
Yeah.
what you're good at, because that's what's going to set you up for success.
I don't think anybody has the same exact 4-year
Oh,
plan as
100%
another
not.
person. Like,
I mean, there's been a lot of overlap, obviously, like for the general
Yeah.
classes like bio, 204, 205,
Yeah.
208, because those have to be taken in a certain order and because of the prerequisites. But I think just the more like electives and things like that, and when you're combining, let's say like your bio and chemistry with like your math side or your physics side, those are always going to be different. Like a lot of our friends have already taken physics and we're barely starting taking it this summer, and now we're finishing it up this coming semester. You know, there's a lot of options you have, and really take advantage of it.
Yeah.
there are so many options.
I think one thing that you shouldn't do is to just like don't panic or like rush things out when you find out that your plan needs altering. Right? It's bound to happen that your plan.
It's easy to just freak out.
Yeah, it's easy to freak out, but it's also bound to happen that your plan's going to change, especially when you do it over such a long period of time, such as like 4 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's inevitable that, you know, it's going to change eventually. And the best thing you can do is just kind of, you know, see what you got, see, you know what the rules are again, and just changing it in the best way that you can.
Yeah, and I think like a great example of how like likely your plan is to change is you don't know, let's say you're a freshman coming into college, right? You don't know when that junior year class is going to be offered, like what time. So let's say you have 2 classes your junior year, and for it, out of like bad luck, they both turn out to be at the same exact time, same days, right? One of them has to be switched. No, they're not gonna make an extra class just for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that happened to me with the
Yeah.
DNA and dinos. I was going to take it too, and then it was during one of my classes.
Yeah. So, I mean, those things happen and it's okay. Like, it will end up working out no matter what. There's definitely different paths to graduating on time, being successful. You just have to find it and make sure that it fits you.
Yeah, that, and just adding on to that is that you don't know if you're ever going to get like waitlisted for a class.
That's
right?
true.
Registration I always change my plan a little bit, at least every single registration, because things never, in a way, things never really go to plan, but in a way they also kind of do, because I'm able to, you know, make changes. But, you know, you don't know if, like classes are going to overlap, or if there's only like one section in our case that doesn't work for you, or if, you know, it's not even being taught. Like sometimes that just kind of happens, but not too much if you actually plan well.
Totally. I think our last point that we wanted to talk about with 4-year plans is make sure that you're leaving room for fun and just enjoy yourself. Because if you're doing 4 years or just straight on tackling on the pre-med kind of struggles and difficultness, I guess at times, it could be overwhelming. And at time, like for example, for the past 2 years, all I've literally done is research and schoolwork, and just it becomes a lot at a certain point. And I'm super glad that I think everything happens for a reason. That's like a big thing that I go with. And I was planning on not doing anything this interterm, and because I was taking that class, but then that class got canceled. So they opened up this entire month, and that's the reason I'm able to go to Japan and then go to Lebanon afterwards. So all of that, like I'm super glad that that ended up happening because it's something to look forward to. It's like, yes, like for once I don't have to like think about school or anything like career related, and I could just go have fun and do something that is so like stress free, and it's just so like refreshing. Because I know coming into this coming semester, spring, I'm gonna be taking physics, which is a big class. It's supposed to be hard. So coming into that, I think I needed this break, and I think it will be a ton of like help.
Yeah, that's definitely how I felt about this last summer, and especially like what Mo was talking about. For like our freshman year, we were obviously in school, and then for the summer we were in EMT school, and then our sophomore year we were in school, and then the first half of our the next summer we were in physics for half of it.
Even during our
And-
inner term, we're taking classes and things.
Yeah, and
too.
so we were
Wow.
literally in school for like 2 years straight. And
like
so
no
at-
stop.
Yeah, and so at that point
Wow.
we were just like, ugh, you know. So it's like, and to finally be able to, you know, have a period of time where you're like, yeah, you don't need to worry about your grades. Was just such like a blessing to have last summer for that second half.
Totally.
Yeah. Seemed like you really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
right now, I mean, the break that I'm having right now between fall and spring it's been pretty nice.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's still got a month left.
I mean, if,
Yeah, me too.
I think if you're doing your 4-year plan, something you will notice for sure is your freshman and probably the first half of your sophomore year, they're not going to be that heavy for the most part.
I thought, well,
I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be
at
the
least for
opposite.
me, yeah. I mean, I think it depends. At least for me, I noticed that it wasn't that heavy. And during those times, I took advantage of a lot of that free time and just the energy I came in with, like to college with, because I had a lot of energy, I had a good amount of free time, and I think I was doing fairly well in school. So then I was like, okay, I have all this free time. I'm still able to play video games and things like that I enjoy. So take advantage of that free time and go do shadowing, go do volunteering, go do those things that you'll have a lot of time for during that time, right? And I think just early on doing those things is so helpful because it helps you recognize what you're getting yourself into early
Yeah.
on. Because let's say your freshman year, you start doing your clinical volunteering and things like that. You realize, oh, I don't like this. I don't like being in the hospital. I don't like being in the clinical field. I actually like doing something else. You're able to change your path early on instead of waiting till your junior year and start basically doing those things then, because by junior year it's very difficult to start changing things, especially after you're past that half semester mark, right? Because you've already done all these prerequisites, you're already taken a good chunk of your major. You basically have a couple classes left, so just keep that in mind. Really take advantage of that free time that you have early on, if you do have it, and make it meaningful.
But I will say, like, absolutely get those like experiences as early as you can. But another side to it, and I would say this is good advice for like most incoming freshmen, don't overwhelm yourself freshman year, because there are so many adjustments you need to make to be able to live in college, and also like just getting into extracurriculars and getting into stuff. It's going to take up time, making friends, whatever. Your first semester of freshman year, coming in normally, not like us because we were in COVID, but coming in normally, you should try to keep the load pretty light and
Yeah.
get good grades. Keep your options open by getting good grades.
Start the momentum then. That's what I'm trying to get at. And be curious. Being
Yeah,
curious,
yeah.
I think, will get you to the things that you really enjoy doing. Like, for example, clubs, whether it's volunteering, whatever it is. If you have like a lot of free time and you're doing very well and like the transition wasn't too difficult, take advantage of it. Get started early. I don't think it's that bad. But obviously, if you think you're the type of person who just needs to take that first semester slow and really gain the ways of college, that's totally fine too. I think that's fine. You know,
the way of college.
yeah, I mean,
It's like Avatar.
I think our first semester in college,
we
I
were
think-
different. We were COVID, so it doesn't count
well,
for
yeah,
us.
I guess, but like,
I feel
my
like in a way,
I mean,
Bro, my sister going to Berkeley, moving away from home, like all of that is like so much for a lot of people. So like,
100%.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, there's still commuters too, right? And
yeah.
I mean, I think in general, if you're going to college, at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's hard to move out of your house and things like that. But if we're talking just mainly academics and just getting involved, I think the workload, no matter like whether you're all over Zoom or in person, is fairly like similar, no matter what. So at the end of the day, like, see where you're at, and if you think you need that extra time, that's fine. A lot of people need that extra time going to college and to just adjust. But if your high school prepared you well and you have those skills down already, and you move into college and you're on top of it, then that's great too. Take advantage of that. Start doing things early on and make meaningful like things out of it. Because, for example, in Cope, we started early on, and that helped us get on the leadership team earlier on. And now we're kind of like in the higher positions, and that we're able to have a lot greater of an impact in that program than we would have had if we started later on.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely different perspectives on it, and just see what fits you best. I think that's the best thing about it, and
Yeah.
be curious.
Everyone's different. I don't think you need to feel rushed into, getting started with certain things. One thing I would recommend, and if anyone asked me, this is what I would say, is to take your first semester, like just focus on your classes. I think what Nathan
That's what
was
I'm
saying
saying.
about what's it called? About just like moving into college, getting adjusted to college classes is something that's gonna, take a lot of time and something that might be unexpected too, right? I mean, no one, assuming you're a freshman, you've never taken any college classes before, and there's, a lot of people say that there is a learning curve that, college classes are very much more difficult than high school classes, right? And so I think it's really good to, take your first semester, see how you're doing, see what your grades are, and kind of assess where you are in terms of, can I do more? And then kind of going from there. Although it doesn't hurt to start learning about different things that you can be doing in the future
Yes.
right from day one. But I really feel like making sure that you can handle the college workload first in that first semester is good. But if you are feeling really ambitious and you feel like you got it, you can definitely get started. No harm done there. But I would recommend, even if you are very ambitious, is to at least go through like one cycle of exams, just so that you can know where you're standing in this class, and so that way you can just make sure that you're sticking with the grades.
Yeah.
For Mo and I mean, yeah, we started Cope early, but we didn't start till
The second semester.
until our
I
second
mean, that's
semester.
what I was trying to say. Like, is our freshman year, like our first semester, we didn't do that much.
Yeah.
It was just schoolwork.
It was a lot of
Right?
school. It was schoolwork and then a lot of learning, because we were learning about different
Exploring
things we can
things.
do, and
We
so
were
that-
curious. That's what I was
yeah.
saying. Like, we were curious about the things that we could get involved in.
Yeah.
And that transitioned to our second semester of freshman year, and that's where we got involved.
Sure.
Yeah. So do a lot of learning, but I think for first semester, it's definitely okay to just, don't feel super pressured to start doing things outside of classes, and really just focus on your classes, so that way you kind of know how much time you have extra moving
Totally.
forward.
That's exactly right, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that brings us to our last segment of the show, which is what is the most pre-med thing to say?
Woo. Always a cheer for most pre-med things.
I think like just this isn't like a phrase, I guess, but maybe we can make it one. But the idea of having every single thing planned out since day one. So like, I'm gonna do this summer, this the next summer, and then this is my last summer, and then like just knowing all that from first semester.
I got you. What class are you taking this summer?
That is a
that's a
very
good one.
pre-med.
There we go.
It's kind of a
Nobody would say
scary
this
one.
summer
Yeah.
if he weren't.
Well, the reason I said this summer and not in the summer is because like it feels like you're doing something every summer
Yeah.
Yeah,
in a way.
that's good.
Whether
That's
it's
good.
EMT, whether it's MCAT, whether it's just taking physics like we did, or research, or
Yeah.
So there
Or
you go.
fluid.
All right, take us out, Nathan.
All right, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Remember, we have Tuesday episodes coming out on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. every week. We have social media at Theory Pre-Med on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, of course. Go watch our YouTube. We have it on camera right here, so you can see us. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching, and we will see ya.